Hi, it's a privilege to be here. I'm happy to know some of you, and I'm happy to get to know a lot of you. So, who am I? This is my presentation, so I don't say it specifically. I'm an engineer from the west coast of Sweden. It looks like this. The best of days. Yeah. So, for a living, I did infrastructure design. I'm an architect. And I also did hacking, some incident handler. I love putting out small USB sticks on the floor, people picking it up, and I get to own their credit cards. 2004, I got a seizure and a brain tumor diagnostic. And 6 months later, they said, no, you don't have brain cancer. It's something else. We don't know what it is, but it doesn't grow. So I was hooked off that, and 8 years later, just 5 minutes after driving on the freeway with my family, I got another seizure, grand mal. I was gone for 10 hours. So when I woke up, they handed me the medicine and say, eat it for the rest of your life and you can drive a car. Well, it didn't work out because my personality got changed. So my kids weren't allowed to yell and run in the house because I get angry and stuff. So my wife told me that you have to stop doing this. We have to do something else. So I started to look for options. And what do? Well, of course, you go to the Google University and look for answers because they are always true. Sure. So I found studies like this, and it got me interested in, well, maybe a diet could be the answer. And I found out that it's just food, and it's very tasty food. I like it. So I challenged my neurologist. That's a hard word for me to say. But he challenged me back and say, well, if you can do the diet and become in ketosis in 30 days, we can change your medication to the diet instead. So I did what everybody else is doing too, using the tools that was available. And I got confused, especially about this one. What does E4 mean? It means that you have to buy another strip. And then, how come I'm almost red, and the next hour I'm not even showing anything off? It was very strange. So I thought there must be some other way to measure this. So I got an idea because I've seen this correlation between breath acetone and beta-hydroxybutyrate, and I said, well, maybe you can measure this breath. So I made a first prototype. It looked like shit, but it worked. It worked well with the urine, anyway. So to see if this could be something that somebody else could have use for, I asked a few people. And the first one, you all know him. He's sitting over there. It's Mr. Andreas Enfeldt. He gave me the thumb up and said it's not only for epilepsy. It's good for diabetes, weight loss, and stuff like that. So I also I got feedback from Jim Abrams from Charlie Foundation. He thought it was a great idea, and he said, well, we know this about epilepsy, but the new thing is cancer, so keep on develop it. And Dominic, I met him too, a great guy. He told me about NASA, the Navy, and a lot about cancers. And of course, this man, sitting right there. He was an advocate. After he published this photo on his blog, my life changed. My mission is changed completely. So I continued doing the development, and I found this premium non-necessary being sort of the mission flag. First, do no harm, instead of killing people, well, not killing people, but get people on drugs, they can actually do this very potent diet instead. So I made it the way I wanted it to be, and that is a tool to create my life, my lifestyle. So I can actually don't have to think about everything. I don't have to think about weighing everything in grams and stuff. So I added a lot of features, and I will talk about them later. And I also added additional parameters that you could actually make sense of when you develop your lifestyle, like meals, like exercise, glucose, body measure, and stuff. So, usage. There's two ways to use this breath ketone analyzer. One is to just look at the feedback on the color and blinks on the one. You can just use a battery or a charger. But you can also customize that feedback to suit your body and your technique. I will come to technique later. So, for example, here, a nutritional ketosis setting would be I fast for 24 hours, make a measure. Say it's 40. So I set the green low level to 40. Then I do fasting for 4 more days, measure, and I get a measure of 70. That's the high end. Above that is probably not doing me more good. Maybe it decreased my metabolic ratio, whatever you say. So you can change it as you like. I use the one to the right. So when I get a yellow blink, I know I'm good. I'm in good ketosis. So the other way to use it is to analyze your parameters, what you enter in, your lifestyle, what you eat, what you exercise, how your food is composed. What we can see in this picture is the calories out doesn't have anything to do with my weight. So I'm insulin resistant probably, so I need more calories out. So then we get to an important thing with breath ketone analyzers. I haven't seen another one, but here's the one that exists today. And the most important thing is to know that the highest concentration is in the bottom of your lungs. So if you're going to test, do not inhale to exhale. Everybody looks like, what? If you measure and if you practice this, you will see that it's the last 15 seconds you can get air off your lungs that is important. So a good technique is key. It's not hard. You just have to find out. And this is actually from an online session I had with a triathlete in England. She didn't get any high results, and she was only eating fat and running for a week. And 5 minutes later, she got the results. Very high level of ketosis. She just misunderstood. She was and just blowing the first 15 seconds out, and that was just the room air. So technique is key. And if you practice this, you get plus minus 1% in repeatability. So correlation, that is a hot topic because everyone wants this correlation to be true. And I thought so in the beginning. And it's partially true. It's not always true. What's a better correlation is actually the glucose. So when your breath acetone is increasing, the glucose is decreasing and vice versa. That is almost 100% good correlation. So I showed this to some people yesterday. This is actually 4 experiments I did with 5-day fasting, and they turned out the same pattern every time. The 4th day, here, the glucose went down. It's probably my insulin resistance that kept the glucose quite high. Another interesting thing is the acetone was quite high all the time because I was in ketosis when I started, and I just drank water, so the ketosis was good, very high. And at the top, you see the beta-hydroxybutyrate, it was rising. Okay, that's normal, that's what you think it should do. But the interesting thing is the glucose is high even if the beta-hydroxybutyrate is high or low. So the beta-hydroxybutyrate level does not indicate the glucose. The acetone did. And why is that? Well, as I say, we come here. The glucose level limits the use of acetoacetate because if there is glucose running around in your blood, the body will use it until it drops. And the beta-hydroxybutyrate level does not limit the glucose. I mean, if we have glucose running in your blood, it will save it, as you saw on the chart. The concentration will go up because we're not using the ketones while we're having glucose in our body. So at the end of the day, breath acetone indicates ketogenesis, the production of acetoacetate and the use of it. And it correlates very well with glucose. So I don't regard the beta-hydroxybutyrate to be a good marker for anything more than that I saved up a lot of energy. And that, if I were doing running or heavy exercise in a competition, of course I wanted the ketones to be high. So that I might measure the beta-hydroxybutyrate. So if glucose was not limiting the use of acetotate, the correlation would have been better. But if you're insulin resistant, you can't get that correlation very well. So now my new baby, because I want a lot of people to do this diet. And I want to support the people that needs this diet, if you get that. Here you have a doctor or dietitian or whatever talking to his clients. And they can do that because the doctor can create a study. And when he's created the study, he will distribute the study ID and study key and a device, of course. That's my page. And the client could enroll that study. After he enrolled this study, the doctor can, in one click, just download data for all his patients and make analysis. Instead of coming into the clinic once a week and just do one point of measure that doesn't make sense, you can actually analyze a week, a day, or a month online. So now I've got some real case feedback from Alison Gannett. Come on.
Thank you. I have to credit several people in this room for saving my life, and we just got to meet today. We've been corresponding online for a while, and it was after I read Jimmy Moore's book and thought that there was some device out there that could help me monitor my levels of ketosis that I started searching the internet and found Ketonix and couldn't wait to order one. So in 2013, I was diagnosed with this lovely beast that I had no idea was growing in my head for probably the last 20 years. And I was 48 years old. I'm a world champion extreme skier. I jump off cliffs for a living. You don't have these things growing in your head. And I was what I thought a healthy person. I'm a farmer. I grow and raise all my own food. And so I thought, you know, what's going on? Why am I acting all weird? My husband thought I was trying to get rid of him. I had really big personality changes. And after I was cooking bacon, ironically, and almost burned the house down, I was just sitting there watching it in flames. My husband took me to the emergency room and said, you know, something's wrong with this woman. She's watching the house burn down and she doesn't even care. So this is what they found. And, you know, basically, it was about to kill me. You can see how large the tumor was. It was pressing on the only 2 arteries of blood that feed into the brain. And so I was literally days away from dying. And I had been going to a doctor, and they did all my blood work, and they pronounced me perfectly healthy. So this is what happened next, which I barely remember, which is a lovely thing that I barely remember it, because brain surgery can kill you. And they were able to remove the primary tumor, which was about the size of a baseball, larger than a baseball, probably on its way to being a grapefruit. And it was a very malignant, very aggressive tumor that likes to metastasize throughout the entire body. So the surgery was so invasive that they sent me home to recover. And this is a blessing that I had such a difficult brain surgery because, one, I came through it okay. A lot of people lose function, you know, you're never gonna ski, let alone walk, let alone talk, you know, you can come out with a lot of crazy deficiencies. I was perfectly fine, and I got on the internet, and I realized that the doctor, one, they hadn't told me that I had cancer. They just said I had a tumor, it was no big deal, don't worry about it. Then I look it up and I'm gonna die. And then I look up and say, they want me to do chemo and radiation. On Wikipedia, it says I'm gonna die faster if I do chemo and radiation. I was like, that's not so great. I kind of knew I didn't want to poison my body because I'm an organic farmer, but I kind of didn't want to die faster and have a crappy quality of life. So I found my doctor in Durango, Dr. Naisha Winters, and she's a functional medicine doctor who had cancer herself and has used the ketogenic diet along with a lot of different, I call them futuristic treatments. I don't call them alternative. I don't think this is alternative. I think we're on the cutting edge of something amazing here. Because if someone like me can use the ketogenic diet to battle terminal brain cancer, what health benefits does it have for everybody else in this room and everybody else on this planet? So this is a lot of little numbers, and I know there's a lot of physicians in the room and numbers geeks. I am happy to share this with anybody. I have basically been tracking my blood work since surgery. The interesting thing is I went on anybody heard of that crazy sexy cancer diet? So it's basically a vegan diet. I went on that. I have blood work from when I was vegan, vegetarian, paleo, and ketogenic. Pretty cool, because what you can actually see, my surgery date is on the far right side, looker's right, and my most recent blood work from a few days ago is right next to the orange stripe. This stripe here is what Western medicine considers healthy parameters, which we all know is bullshit. And then this red stripe is what my Dr. Naisha Winters says is her healthy categories. And so we weren't just interested in ketones, but when I found this little gadget, it was amazing because what I found was I was using the blood test, everybody knows as Precision Ultra, the P strips, which only work for most people for like a few weeks, right? Because as soon as your body keto adapts, the P strips no longer work. The blood test strips are so expensive, you know, they're $5 a pop. And so I would test once a week in the morning and once a week in the afternoon to see if I was generating ketones. And I was, but they weren't that impressive. So something was awry. So I quickly, when I found this, I ordered it online, and I blow into this thing like it's my crack addict. You know, I eat something, I swish my mouth out with water, I blow into it, and I see how that food works. And because what we found with blood work and what my doctors found, everybody's different. Everybody's metabolism is different, right? So a lot of ketone books, cookbooks talk about using coconut. I found I put coconut in my coffee, like a coconut puree that I made myself. I blew into this meter and I was out of ketosis. Wow, I was totally surprised. Now another person can eat coconut and have a completely different reaction, which is why this is so wonderful, because you can adapt it to you, to your level of your blood, your body, your metabolism, your level of insulin resistance. Every single person's going to be different. Another example is I'm a farmer, so I like to grow exotic vegetables. And so, of course, when I became ketogenic, I started growing a lot of pumpkins and a lot of low-sugar winter squashes, tomatoes, you know, all the things. I knew they had sugar in them, but because I grew all those vegetables and they're so exotic, you can't go on nutritiondata.self.com and find out what the level of the purple hillbilly tomato is, or, oh, sorry, I'm running out of time. Anyway, so I was able to find out whether the foods that I was ingesting actually were keeping me in ketosis or pushing me out. The great thing about brain cancer and people using ketogenic therapies you want to achieve a higher level of ketosis than maybe someone who is losing weight. Or, you know, if you have MS, you might want to be higher. So having this, I was in the 40s. Those of you who have this will know that that's like moderately ketogenic. My blood levels were at like 1.0. Then all of a sudden I had this tool and I was able to go up to high 60s, early 70s constantly. And my level of ketosis was then up from 2 to 7. So I am able to therapeutically use that to, when you have brain cancer, you want to be really ketogenic. So I'm out of time, I think. Are we allowed to take questions or not? Later. So I just want to say on the schedule, my name is listed, Allison Gannett. If you put a .com on there, that's my website. So if you have questions for me, since we can't do Q&A, people can do that. Contact me. And I'm starting cooking camps at my farm. So hopefully you can come join me, because I think a lot of people, it's hard to figure out how to eat the equivalent of 1.5 cups of butter and 9 cups of vegetables a day.